Hey folks, going to be kind of doing a little learn and play for the um, jailbreak scenario for Elder Scrolls: A Betrayal of the Second Era. This is from Chip Theory Games, just being delivered to folks now. Um, the This scenario essentially kind of teaches you about the combat. Gives you options for your character creation. Normally, you can just create a character and just choose what you want. This sort of like limits it down and kind of gives you options based off of what you do in this scenario. Um, I have created a character up to the point of basically except of choosing a class, because that is what you sort of do after you complete this scenario. It gives you the options based off of what you've completed. This scenario is what's called a clash, which is basically a single map hex that you are going to encounter enemies and have some sort of goal. The goal for this is to either uh, kill all the enemies on the board or escape off the other side of the map. I'll go over that in a moment, but I wanted to sort of show you what the character was that I created real quick. I did choose, so I went with Argonian. I am using these are the deluxe adventurer booklets. I forgot what they were called, folders or whatever. It's nice little faux leather, little brass on the corners and stuff. Um, but you can see Argonian resistance. Once per battle, when you would be dealt damage, I can prevent all of that damage. Um, you can see that whole thing slides in there. These are my starting stats down here. So I start with 5 health. I'm going to lay this kind of like this a little bit. You can see that 5 health. So my health chip marker is up here, and it's set to 5, the 5 side. I have 3 stamina, so here's my stamina row, and I have 3 stamina in there. My magicka is at 2, so here's my magicka row. I've got 2 in here. My combat is 1, so you'll see my combat is over here, and I have one combat die ready to go. And then the skill that I chose. I have the combat skill. Everybody starts with this basic combat skill. You get 2 level 1 dice with combat, and it tells you the faces of the die. It tells you essentially it's basically just going to deal X amount of damage based on the number in the corner. Or if you roll the circle, that gives you a tenacity. This skill does not have any battle stance requirements on it. If it did, it would be up here. So I can be in any battle stance and roll these dice. Basically gives you a little blurb about this. I can be in any battle stance except for magic stance. So I can't roll these in magic stance. And then you could see these are all level 1s. So I can deal damage instantly, or I can sort of set these as active dice. It's kind of hard to see. There's a little A right there. That means active. I can set those up in my active slots up here, and I have 4 of those up here. And essentially, those will block a damage. Prevent the damage equal to the number in the corner. So the faces on these dice, 1 is a tenacity face. That's the circle. That'll increase my tenacity by 1. Then there are 4 faces that will do 1 damage or prevent 1 damage, and then there is 1 face that will deal or prevent 2 damage. That's your basic combat dice. Now, the other skill that I chose, or sorry, you get 1 of those dice, not 2. The other skill that I chose was single-handed weapons. It's called one hand and shield, basically. And you do start with 2 of those dice. So you choose where these get slotted. So you have 4 on either side. And basically what that does is it prevents, I have 3 stamina here, so I'm only ever going to be able to get 3 combat dice here. If I upgrade my stamina so that I have 4 stamina, I would only be able to get 2 combat dice. So they limit each other essentially. But you get to decide this layout however you want to do it. I just sort of chose this not completely at random, but first time playing the game, I kind of want to see how that's all going to work. But I chose the one hand and shield, level 1. So it's a shield discipline. You can see there's 7 dice. This is what the faces look like. And they go active. So when you place this die in an active slot, you deal X amount of damage, where X is the number in the bottom right, to your target. And then when you are dealt damage by an enemy, you may exhaust this die to prevent to prevent damage. So it's sort of a dual type thing. But it's only doing 1 or 2 damage. So it's not, if you run into an enemy that has some sort of shield, that's probably not going to do a whole lot, basically. And you can see at the top, I must be in the one-handed battle stance in order to use this. That's that icon there. And it relies on my stamina dice, or my stamina stat. So my stamina stat is currently 3. So at max, I could roll 3 of these dice at once. I only have 2 of these dice, so that's okay for right now. Then you can see level 2, heroic slash, level 3, defensive posture or shield charge, etc. Do all kinds of other things. And then there is a level 4 on the back that is the power bash that does additional things as well. On the back of the combat card is just your turn reference guide. And I do not have any items yet. That's where these would go, in these slots back here. But that is basically how the Deluxe Adventurer Inventory, I think is what it's called, works. You could also roll a second one back here if you wanted to see the whole sheet versus just sort of like the 3/4 on the front. So I will set that aside right now for reference and come back here. So you, like I said, kind of tilt this up so the glare's not down. I have a metal peg up here that I pick my battle stance basically at the start of my turn. This is my experience tracker, so I can track additional, or I can save up to 3 XP per encounter, essentially, or encounter basically. Tenacity track is down here. I start with no tenacity, and this is my cooldown track, or my cooldown stat down here. It starts at 2. So as I use dice, they're going to go in my cooldown track down here, and they're going to slide all the way to the left. And at the start of my turn, whatever my cooldown stat is, that's how many dice I'm going to remove from my cooldown track. And if it's a dice that came up from up here, it goes back. If it's a light fatigue, it goes away. If it's an over fatigue, it just goes to the end of the row and then stays in there. That's sort of how that works. So you can do multiple attacks per battle, but if you do anything past the first attack, you have to take a light fatigue. That's going to go in here and clog up your row. There are things that will give you over fatigues. Over fatigues are bad. You basically have 6 rounds of combat. And once you get to the 6th round, that's going to start being your fatigue round. At the start of the fatigue round, all players will take an over fatigue, and then they will take true damage equal to the number of over fatigue in their cooldown track. True damage ignores any defense you have, any abilities that, except abilities that say they can prevent true damage. But anyways, that's sort of the player board here. I'm going to leave this here. And so now let's switch over to the map here. You can see we've got the partially set up. We've got a cache chip here. So this is going to be your items. So the first thing I needed to do for this scenario, so I'm going to start over here on one of these 2 hexes, and then I can optionally kill. There's going to be 1 enemy that comes out because it's 1 enemy per player. It's just me playing, and I'm only playing 1 character. So there's only going to be 1 character that comes out. So I either have to defeat that enemy, or I have to rush off to this side of the board and end my turn there. So there is a bag here of 1 to 5 enemy chips, so I will draw them randomly. And this bag was created specifically for this scenario, or crafted specifically for this scenario. The chips in here, the enemies were specifically chosen. I'm assuming they're the easier enemies. But it's going to be a level 1 enemy that's in here. And let's draw this one. We have an high elf bandit. We'll switch back over here to the player mat. High elf bandit, you can see, has 3 health, has a range of 4 on the left, Rolls 1 combat dice in combat on the right at the top. It has 0 defense, so any damage I do to it, it'll eat it. But it does have dodge. And I believe what dodge does, I'm going to have to check. I believe dodge, if I roll dice and I don't do damage with dice, he will ignore that number of damage. So if I roll 2 dice and only 1 die does damage, the other die doesn't, he will ignore 1 damage. He ignores damage once for each dice that I don't use to do damage. Additionally, and this probably isn't going to focus, this stat over here, so he's level 1. He can hit 2 enemies because there's 2 guys there, and the arrow pointing down means he will always prefer to target the weakest enemy. So it's going to be the person that's most injured. If the arrow points up, he will target the least injured person, the strongest person he wants to go after. And so there are 2 people there, so he can target 2. He hits at a range of 4, 3 life. So we'll take him. We're going to get 3 of these health chips here. And he goes on a specific spot. He goes in the one spot over here. Right here. This is where the first enemy spawns, and the only enemy in my scenario. So he spawns there. So now it's up to me. I will have 5 life, so I will grab 5 health chips for myself. And I will put myself right here. That way I'm nice and close to him. And now I think that we are ready to start. Start the battle. So I have a couple options. I'm probably going to want to run up and try to do some damage to him. So what can I do on my turn? What do I have to do? What are my actions? I can move. I will move my stamina. My stamina is 3, so I can move up to 3 hexes. I can then engage. That's where you do combat. So your first engage essentially is free, right? And then your any engage you take after that on this turn will give you a light fatigue, which will go into your cooldown roll. When you engage, you can also change your battle stance, battle form, declare your target, you roll dice. We're going to get to that real quick. You can resolve skill abilities. I don't have any of those yet because I don't have a class, but you use tenacity to use those skill abilities for that class. So I'm not going to be doing that. And then exploring, we are not in a delve, so I cannot explore. And we will get to the rest of that. Enemy turns, we'll get to that when we're there. I do need to find out. So dodge says, when this unit is engaged by an opposing unit, prevent damage dealt to this unit equal to the number of rolled skill dice that do not deal damage. So that I did explain that correctly. But it says exhaust. Is exhaust on here? That's for my sword and board dice. Let me see what exhaust does. I think that just means that it goes into my cooldown row, but I wanted to check just in case. Is there an index? There is an index. Exhaust 23 and 60. I am 1 away from 60. Exhaust. Solving abilities. Sorry, I'm reading. Maybe it's on 23, I think is what I said earlier. Exhaust, cooldown track. Exhausted skill dice, fatigue dice, etc. are going to that track. So when something tells you to exhaust, it goes into your cooldown track. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do first, if I do multiple moves, I can perform no engage actions. So I can move multiple times, but then I can't engage. So I can only move once and then engage as many times as I want to take for light fatigue. and then potentially, and also if I move and then engage, I can't move again. So, what I'm probably going to do is move. So I have 3 fatigue, God Lord. I've got 3 stamina, so I can move 3. So I can probably go 1, 2, 3. Now I'm right next to this high elf bandit, and I will then engage. It is my first engage. I am going to attack him with my level 1 one-hand and shield, my shield discipline dice. So we will flip over here. So I'm going to use this skill. So I'm going to take, I can roll as many dice equal to my stamina stat. So your stamina stat goes for your move as well as how many dice you roll for skills that use stamina. Some skills might use magicka, and that'll determine how many dice you roll for that. So I'm going to roll these 2 dice. So I'm just going to pick those up. I'm going to give them a little roll here. I don't know if I'm going to roll them in this, though. Let me slide this out of the way. So I roll 2 1s. And those are active dice, so they'll go up here. So when I place them up here, I deal 1 damage or I deal damage equal to the numbers that are there. So there's 2 damage. So flipping back over here, the high elf bandit has 0 defense, so he will eat both of those. His dodge ability does not come into play because I dealt damage with both dice. So he loses 2 health chips. So I'll take those away. And he's dealt 2 damage. Now, I also kind of, I want to try to get that treasure if I can. You know what? I can move. No, I can't move again because I engaged. I might stop here. He's down to 1 life. He's not going to be able to hurt me, really, because I can block both. I think I will. I think I will stop. I'm not going to do anything else. That's the end of my turn. So now we go to enemy turns. If I had any companions, those would go now, or if any other players were playing with me, they would take a turn now as well. Then you do companion turns, and then after companion turns, it is time for the enemy's turn. So, on an enemy turn, I trigger any abilities that would have that start of turn triggering. There are none. Move. The enemy moves up to 2 hexes. The enemy, I do not believe, is going to move because it can target me. I'm right there adjacent to it. So it's just going to engage me. It does have sight of me, and line of sight in this game is determined by tile. So you have line of sight to everything on your map tile and every adjacent map tile to the tile you are on. So it's very rudimentary and very easy to determine if you have line of sight to something, or if you can see something, not necessarily line of sight. It's not going to move. It will just engage. It will engage me because I'm the only thing there. It's going to gather and roll dice. So let me get the enemy dice. This is one thing I did not grab. Where are the enemy dice? There they are. He has a combat stat of 1. So, he's not ready for this. But that is my problem. So he's going to have 1 combat die. It is blank on one side, 4 singles, and then 1 double, like normal combat dice for players, except he doesn't have the tenacity section. So he has 1 combat, so that's the dice he's going to roll. He will roll it against me. We'll switch back over here. I have 2 defense with my 2 dice from earlier. So it's a blank. He did not hit, so I don't even have to worry about it. Units react. I don't have to react, and that's the end of the turn. And I believe it just goes back to me because there's no end of turn stuff for this scenario, at least. Now, what I need to figure out, back to the adventurer's turn. When do those exhaust? So those didn't prevent any damage. You may exhaust this when you are dealt damage by an enemy. So I guess it stays up there until it takes damage, which is kind of nice. I don't have to worry about re-rolling it every single turn, but it limits me until something attacks me. I've only got this one combat die to actually deal damage with, which is not bad because I only have to deal 1 damage to his health chip to actually kill him. So start of turn, trigger any abilities this timing. I don't have any. Recovery, if I had any dice in my cooldown row here, I would recover 2. So I take the top 2, put them back in here or out of the box, or I mean out of the, if it was light fatigue, away. If it was over fatigue, just at the end of the row. And then back to my actions. So I think what I'm going to do is not worry about attacking him because he still really hasn't hurt me. I will move, and I can move up to 3. I will move onto this cash chip. Oops, sorry. That was here. I'm going to move onto this cash chip. And this cash chip, we draw a item. So let me grab the rules for that real quick. I have to lockpick this in order to be successful, in order to get the item. So let me move this player tray out of the way. Put the card there. Let me get the lockpicking dice. The lockpicking dice. There are 3 of them. There is a 4th if you are trying to get a legendary item. So, all right. Here's the item, face down. There's 3, so I'm going to be rolling 3 lockpicking dice, and they have numbers 1 through 6. The combination is 3, 4, 5. You can see that right there. So I've got to roll a 3, a 4, and a 5, and lock those in. No, sorry. The 3, you always roll the 3 dice. The 3 is how many chances I get. So I get 3 rolls of the 3 dice. Roll. Gather and roll your chosen number. Your first attempt, you must roll all 3. There is no key digit that has a spiked border, so we don't have to worry about that. I can change die results by gaining light fatigue. So for each light fatigue gained, I might change a die result by 1. So rotating it up or down, increasing it up or down. You can't rotate a 6 to a 1 or vice versa. Resolve the attempt. Compare results to the difficulty code. If your accumulated results match each digit of the code, you succeed at the check, and then you we'll get the item. If you fail, I think it still stays there and you can try it again. Yep. So let's just try to get this item. So we got a 3, a 4, and a 2. So the 4, I can lock the 4 and the 3 in. And I got the 3 and 4 there. So now I got to roll a 5. And I've got 2 more chances because the first roll took the first chance. Bam. 5. So 3, 4, 5. I've unlocked this. And I receive the Glyph of Transmutation. Enchant it's not a cast, it's special cast chip, the chest. The enchanted item may be discarded at any time to draw the top 5 cards from the I think this is, yes, the legendary deck. Choose one to keep, then discard the rest along with this item card. Pretty powerful item. Basically allows me, if I don't like the legendary item that I have, I can enchant it, which basically discard it and draw the top 5, pick one to keep, and then discard the rest. So that's good. I will put that into my item here, my item deck, or my item. One thing about this is these are very tight. So I have my Glyph of Transmutation now. Set this to the side. There's my lockpicking dice. Move that back up here. And we'll switch back over to the main board. All right, so now what do I need to do now? So I got that. So I got this. This goes away. My movement ended. You can't like move. You can't, like, I have 3 stamina and I only move 2. It doesn't mean I have one move left. Like, when you stop moving, that's it. That's your move. So what I could do is probably I can move again, but I won't. Won't be able to engage. But I will be able to probably attack this cat. So I'll just move 1 right there. And end my turn, because I've moved twice now, which means I cannot engage. So it's now his turn. He is basically just going to do the same thing he did the first time, which is attack me. So he gets 1 combat die. That's the black die, so we'll roll that for him. He rolled a 1, so he hits me for 1. So now that's where my shields come in. So I can use this to block that 1 damage. We'll put this up here. So I can slide this up and you can see that. So I used one of those to block 1 damage. It comes down here in my cooldown row, slides all the way to the left. And then that's his turn. Back to me. I can, start of my turn, start of turn effects. I'm not going to do anything, or I don't have anything that triggers. I do a recover action. So I take 2 dice, because that's my cooldown track. I only have, or cooldown stat. I only have 1 die. So that goes back up to my thing up there. Now, I can do a couple things. I can engage, which I think I will do. But I'm going to engage with my combat stat, because I maybe get a tenacity. If not, I'm going to deal damage to him and kill him. So I will take the combat die. I'm going to roll it. And I did a 1. 1 damage. That does not go up here. It just goes straight into my cooldown row. It goes all the way left. The High Elf Bandit has only 1 life left. So that kills him. He goes away. We'll start a discarded enemy stack off to the side here. That will be important. As you kill enemies, you'll put them into a discard pile. And in case other enemies spawn, that's sort of the pile you go to. Or rather, when the bag runs out, those probably get put back into the bag. So now, that was 1 attack, 1 engage. So I can also move. And I'll move. I'll also escape. So I'll do both. because I think that sort of triggers it gives me more options for classes, so to speak. So that's the end of the round. What happens with active dice? This is a good question now. Do active dice stay up there? I would imagine they don't. I would imagine they go into my cooldown. But let's see what happens here. Clash setup. That's what we just went through. Additional rule. End of a battle. Remove all remaining bonus HP from a player's mat. Each player, it removes and exhausts any remaining dice from their active slot. So yes, so this comes down here and gets exhausted into my... Oh, sorry. You can't see that. This was up here. This gets moved down here to my cooldown slot. And then the battle mat gets disassembled, etc., etc., etc. So let's go back to the Jailbreak encounter here. The battle ends at the end of a round if all enemies are defeated, all adventurers are defeated, or all undefeated adventurers have escaped. After the battle ends, check that you have recorded each adventurer's achievements below, see below, then move on to the end of the battle cleanup and class rewards as described below. Achievements checklist. As you play the Jailbreak introduction encounter, note which adventurer completes each of the following achievements. Each adventurer can complete multiple achievements, but it is also possible for an adventurer to complete no achievements. Defeat the High Elf Bandit. That is the one we had, so I did that, so I get a check mark for that. Defeat the Argonian Bandit. He was not in the battle. Defeat the Skeever Pup. He was not in the battle. Defeat the Skeleton. He was not in the battle. And defeat the Spriggan. He was not in the battle. Succeed at the Cache Lockpick. I did do that, so I got that one. Escape first. I did do that, because it was only me, so I escaped first. Take the first turn. I also did that. Take the last turn. I also did that as well. First to take damage from an enemy at range 2+. I didn't take any damage from enemy at all. First to take damage from an enemy at range 1. I also did not do that. I did not take... Well, let's see. Does taking damage, even if I blocked it, do I still take it? That's a good question. So let's look at damage. 63. Preventing damage. Units can use, however these, if an ability prevents an amount of damage, the amount is subtracted from the amount dealt. 1 point of damage at a time. Any remaining damage is taken by the affected unit and reduces its HP. Damage that is prevented was still dealt, but it cannot trigger abilities that require damage to be taken. So and this specifically says to take damage. I did not take any damage because I didn't remove any of my health chips. So I did not get those last 2 achievements. So it says, after the battle ends, follow the end of the battle cleanup steps as described on page 86. We did. But place all of the level 1 to 5 enemy chips into their enemy bag instead of only the 5 you used for this battle. So all the level 1s will go in there. Also, place all the level 10 to 20 enemy chips into their enemy bag. I got to do that as well. Remember to remove and exhaust any remaining skill dice from your active slots and to recover any drained skill dice. So if a die is drained, it actually comes off of the board completely, and I think they tell you to place it on top of your character board, but it'll probably just set aside. So it's basically like one and done abilities, like special, super powerful abilities that's, one and done for that battle, but then you'll get them back after the battle. You leave the skill status, light fatigue and over fatigue in your cooldown track. I do not have any. Well, the skill dice I do, so those stay there. So I don't recover those until until like an overland map turn or possibly another battle. Keep any tenacity and items that you gain during the battle, unless you decide not to base your class choice on your achievements. And then after you completed the setup, you're ready to choose your class rewards. Class rewards. After a battle, adventurers normally complete the reward phase to gain XP from their encounter and spend it. Instead of XP, this battle rewards each adventurer with their choice of several classes based on the achievements they completed. Refer to the rewards list below. It is recommended that players do not look at this list until after the battle. Good thing I didn't look at it. After considering the classes that are earned based on their achievements, each adventurer then chooses one of those classes, takes that class's sheet, places it next to their adventurer map. Note that some of these classes are only available in the Valenwood expansion, which we have. An adventurer with fewer than 2 class choices to choose from must wait until each other adventurer has chosen a class. Then that adventurer sets aside any class sheet based on their own achievement and shuffles all the other sheets, not just those left from the other adventurer's achievements. That adventurer draws a number of sheets until they have 2, including any they may have earned based on their achievement, and then chooses 1 to use in this game. If there are multiple adventurers with fewer than 2 class options, they may determine the order in which to shuffle and choose. So, if all adventurers were defeated, shuffle all the class sheets, then each adventurer draws 2 and chooses 1. Alright, so if I defeated the High Elf Bandit, which I did, let me get the class sheets out here. We will determine my class during this video. Then I will probably stop this and start another video for the first overland map adventure. I did forget to increase the round dice, so there is a round dice. I believe I took 2 rounds, so the round dice would have been on round 2. And then, like I said, once it gets to round 6, that's the fatigue rounds. Every round from 6 forward, everybody takes an over fatigue, and then takes true damage at the start of the round based on how much over fatigue is in their cooldown room. So as the defeated the High Elf Bandit, I can take the Arcanist. Let me get the races out of here first. All right, races are all right. So I need the Arcanist. Oh my gosh, there it is, Arcanist. Or the Sorcerer, and the Sorcerer. That's an option. There's the Sorcerer. I also did the Lockpick, so I could do the Burglar or the Rogue. So let's see, the Burglar's there. There's the Rogu. I escaped first, so I could be a Bard or a Ranger. I'm going to have almost all of these, probably. Bard, Ranger. Took the first turn. I can be the Dragon Knight. I took the last turn. I could be the Healer, and I didn't do the other things, so I lose the ability for those other options. So these are the options for the classes based off what I did for this scenario. Like I said, this is just sort of the introductory, teaching you how to do the battle. Normally, if you're going to do a normal, like once you've done this once or twice, you probably can just create your character and you just choose your class. So you don't have, it's not based off achievements in a scenario. It says you can also do that here. It does not want any of the classes earned based on their achievements. They can choose one from the classes remaining that the other adventurers have not chosen. But they lose any tenacity and any items gained. But anyways, there was also a whole flavor text, like a whole paragraph worth of flavor text that leads into the scenario, sort of starts you going for this particular, to the start of your campaign, basically. Little story. All right, so we have the Arcanist here. So you can always upgrade. So it starts on the novice level, which you can always upgrade it to the master, which gives you more powerful stuff. So in order to upgrade the Arcanist, I have to defeat this enemy type, which is the horned enemy type, using your Fate Carver class ability. So Fate Carver is down here. It's a level 5. And it says discard all Crux tokens from the sheet. For each Crux token discarded, deal 3 true damage to a targetable non-quest enemy. That's down here. It's my level 5. So I'd have to have 5 tenacity, and then I'd have to have Crux tokens on the sheet, which I'm assuming is going to be up here. So it says, after you defeat an enemy while in magic stance, place 1 Crux token here with a max of 3. Start each session with 1 Crux token here. Abilities that require Crux tokens must use Crux tokens from the sheet. Cannot be performed if the required Crux tokens are not available. So, if I have 1 tenacity and spend it, I can place 1 crux token on a targetable non-quest enemy. Damage from every combat die applied to this enemy is increased by 1, even if 0 damage is rolled. That's pretty powerful if you have to have a party. So I'm probably not going to choose this because it's just me. And it's not, maybe if I had a companion, but I don't think companions stick around long enough for me to actually use this. So I'm probably not going to be the Arcanist, so we'll just set this aside for right now. Sorcerer was the other one. To upgrade, I have to have players plus 2 enchant. Oh, the number of players, me, plus 2 enchantments active at the same time. Those are items, I believe, enchantments. Or, yeah, certain types of items. That one I have is an enchantment. So in order to upgrade, I have to have 2 more other enchantments that I make active at the same time. It says if the start of your turn, if I start my turn in the magic stance, I gain 1 tenacity. And then Power Surge, spend any amount of additional tenacity, so I spend the 1 plus any other amount. Choose an adventurer to recover the leftmost number of dice from their cooldown track equal to the additional amount spent. So again, this is probably to help, sort of help other adventurers. Probably not going to choose the Sorcerer either because it's just me playing. Burglar. To upgrade, I have to gain 4 items in a single battle. So I have to do a lot of looting in a single battle. I have to add 1 attempt. I can add 1 attempt to all my lockpick checks. After succeeding a lockpick check, gain 1 tenacity. That's pretty powerful. So, for instance, for that first one, I had 3 attempts. It would make it 4 for me because I'm a burglar. Fortune's Favor. Interrupt. When gaining an item from a cache, you may draw 2 additional items. Choose 1 to gain and discard the other 2. Cut Purse's Art. Interrupt. At the start of a town encounter with a shop, perform a lockpick check on 1 item in the shop. If successful, gain the item and draw a new item from its corresponding deck from the shop. That's powerful too. I like this. I like this burglar. Shadowy Supplier. Interrupt. After defeating an enemy, roll 1d6 and apply the rolled result. 1 to 2, heal for 3 hit points. 3 to 4, remove up to 3 light fatigue from your cooldown track. And 5 to 6, draw a common item. And then Clemency. Enduring, that means that whenever the keyword... So interrupt basically means it interrupts the action as you're taking it. Enduring means that it's always active. So, for instance, if I want to do Shadowy Supplier, it's at 2, right? 2 tenacity. I have to spend that tenacity, so I reduce my tenacity down. If it says enduring, it just means once I get to 3 tenacity, this is activated, and it's always active. And it says each other adventurer gains the burglar's innate skill in addition to their own. The innate skill is the one up here that says add 1 attempt to all your lockpicking checks. Then we have the Padomaic Sprint, and this is an interrupt. At the end of any unit's turn, gain an immediate free turn, once per round. So I can immediately take an action after any unit's turn. That's a unit would be my companion and allies or an enemy. I like that burglar so far. We have the Rogu. In order to upgrade, I have to have a level 2 skill die trained in 2 different stealth type skill lines. That's what that icon is. It's hard to see there. When engaged by an adjacent enemy, prevent 1 damage dealt to you for each miss rolled. So if I have an adjacent enemy that's dealt, that's adjacent, an adjacent enemy that attacks me, I have the same. I have the dodge ability. This is what, this is the dodge ability for each miss rolled against me. I prevent that much damage. Veil of Shadows. After defeating a level 10-20 enemy or a quest unit, gain a stealth status die. I would imagine that stealth status makes it harder to hit me, if not impossible, until it goes away. Kick back, roll a number of enemy combat dice equal to your stamina stat, and heal for 2 hit points for each miss rolled. So there's only 1 miss on those enemy combat dice. It's that blank side. Timely escape. It is enduring, but it also requires me to do it to be in one of two battle stances: the double-handed stance, the two-handed stance, or the single-handed stance. And it's enduring. Once per turn, you may re-roll an enemy's engaged that targets you. That's kind of powerful. Caltrops move up to 3 hexes, then each non-quest enemy adjacent to you rolls an engage against itself, ignoring its skills. Can be powerful. Shadow Strike. Deal a targetable enemy damage equal to the number of fatigue dice in your cooldown track. This damage defeats that enemy. Remove up to 2 life fatigue from your cooldown track. That's pretty powerful too. Bard. Reroll once per any unit's turn. Reroll any 1 die rolled by a unit within 2 hexes of you, including yourself. You can do the Red Mountain Drinking Song. After deploying enemies, deal 1 true damage to up to 2 enemies that were just deployed. That could be powerful. Stagger and Sway. When a party member engages an enemy, they may ignore 1 defense of that enemy, so this is powerful for in a party. Gain the Bard Harder side quest, if not already gained. Bard Harder. You never go full Bard. Hear the Hist speak. Apply a day's status die to up to 2 targetable enemies. I would imagine that cuts down on what they can do. Maybe they lose a turn. I'm not sure. For each fatigue die in your cooldown track, heal adventurers for a collective total of 2 hit points. Not bad, but I don't think I'm going to go for it. Ranger and Dragon Knight, I'm not going to do a healer. Just because that's a more of a party ability. Ranger or Dragon Knight. The party's base overland movement is increased by 1 for the Ranger. Trapping webs at the start of an enemy's turn reduce its movement this turn by 1. Deal a targetable enemy true damage equal to its defense stat. Wrathful Strikes. Wanderer. After drawing a peaceful or conflict overland adventure card, discard that card and draw another card of the same type. Revealing Flare. When the party rolls to determine an unstable encounter, you may re-roll the unstable die once. When you would take damage, a Nimble Protector. When you would take damage, deal all that damage to an adjacent unit instead. That's pretty good. And then Dragon Knight. There are more undefeated enemies than undefeated party members. Ignore 1 defense on your target. So as long as I'm outnumbered, I ignore 1 defense on my target. That could be powerful too. Each adventurer may lose Dragon Leap. Each adventurer may move 1 hex. You may spend any amount of additional tenacity to increase the number of hex each adventurer may move by 1 for each additional tenacity spent. Dragon Knight Standard. In any order, each adventurer in single-handed single-handed stance, two-handed stance, or ranged stance may roll 2 enemy combat dice and deal the damage to a targetable enemy. Molten Weapons. Interrupt. Before rolling dice for your engage, if you are using it says it has an axe symbol. Is that? It must be an axe. Your combat skill dice deal true damage during this engage, so it ignores defense. I don't think I'm going to do the Ranger. I think it's down. I don't think I'm going to do the Rogue. I think it's going to be Burglar or Dragon Knight. Cauterize. Gain 1 over fatigue and recover up to 2 drained dice. It's an over fatigue though, but that pulls dice that are completely gone back in. And then Dragon Blood. After you defeat an enemy, you may remove 2 light fatigue or 1 over fatigue from your cooldown. That's powerful too. Man. Add 1 attempt to all your lockpick checks after succeeding at lockpick check. I think I'm going to go with the Burglar. I really want to try the Burglar out. This seems like it would be It seems like it would be a lot better for a single player, but I really want to try the burglar. I'm gonna do the burglar. Love me a good burgle. Oh, I bet the burglar goes on the back here. That's what it does. So the burglar slides into the back slot here. That makes more sense. So you can see all the abilities. I like it. So now you can see the burglar slides in. I can see all the abilities for the burglar. Burgle. Alright, so set the progress dials. So now I go to my progress dials here. And I had started with one. So here's the progress dial. And I had started with 1 XP for my party. This isn't supposed to be here technically, but I put it there anyway. So leave the day dial unset. Alright, well, it's still supposed to be off there. Set the party XP dial to the 2 position. That means everybody in the party has 2 experience. But leave each adventurer's saved XP track up here set to 0. Then there's some more flavor text. Adventurers typically rest after each encounter. During rest, each adventurer heals some HP and removes 1 die of their choice from their cooldown track. However, after the Jailbreak introduction encounter, this temporary refuge from the party's new guild acts like an inaction, which can be taken during town actions. Thus, each adventurer now heals to their maximum HP, clears all dice from their cooldown track, so this gets cleared and that goes back there, and then that goes back there. And then the encounter is finished. Then you return to page 13 and resume the setup to get the first guild quest and start going. So what I'm going to do now is stop here, and that's where I will continue. I think I've got a pretty good grasp. This is the round dice too. Got a pretty good grasp on how the combat works, the order of things, movement, what you can and can't do, how all of this works down here. So I think I'm ready to start the normal campaign. They recommend you start in Black Marsh, which is probably what I'm going to do. And I will go from there. So I will probably record that. I don't know. I'm not going to get to that tonight. I don't think. I will probably get to it. Well, tomorrow is not going to happen. Sunday, possibly, depending if my other game group and I meet or not. If we don't, I'll probably play this. If we do, I will not play this, and I will play something with them. Anyways, thanks for watching.